Welcome to Sparking Success with Aaron Opalewski. Aaron brings you conversations that spark innovation, cultivate leadership skills, and pave the way for your business success. In each episode, we delve into the dynamic world of business and leadership, exploring strategies, insights, and success stories that fuel your professional journey. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Sparking Success. My name is EJ, and I'm your host, and I'm joined by my good friend on his podcast, Aaron Opalewski. Aaron, how are you today?
What's up, EJ?
Man,
Doing well.
What a beautiful fall morning.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Good.
But a great fall morning. I was here at the studio a bit early, and as I peered out the windows on the side that we have, and just all the full Michigan colors. It was just stunning, man.
Yeah, it's like with all the, that's a good view.
You got the American flag waving out there. It's like, yeah, let's go. Let's go. Well, today on the podcast, we're going to talk about the stages and phases of business development. Yeah. And Aaron, I love that you came up with that title because it's something that over the years, Spark companies, the companies that you're the CEO of, you've done a phenomenal job leading those. And this is a vital part of anyone's business. This isn't just for recruiters. This isn't just for talent agencies. This is for everyone in business today. And we're going to primarily cover three main points. It's going to be a short, punchy episode. And I would love to just dive right into it. Like, where should people start?
Well, I think that's where you start, is that you do start. So what happens in a business, right? Like, okay, like you decide to start a business. Maybe you start with no clients, and that takes a special kind of courage, I'll call it. And, we've done that at times. More likely, someone has a baseline skill set in something or a strong skill set in something, and they know they have a customer. Probably a good customer, for them, but something that they can say like, hey, like I have an opportunity here with this customer, with this client, that I can start a business. And then what happens is they start that business. It's going well, with that client. They're able to, pay themselves, like get some money in. They might even be able to hire, a person or more people around it, right? Depending on the scope and scale of that client. And all that's great. It can go so great though, like sometimes success is our biggest enemy, and it can go so well though that they may run into a situation where that's their only client, or it's 80, 90% of what's coming in on their revenue line. It's their only client that's really actually, makes it profitable, things like that. And I don't think that's like the worst thing in the world, but you're setting yourself up you're in a major danger zone if that's your only client. So let's elaborate on that a little bit more. So let's say, if you don't mind, let's just use Bolt as an example.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we start Bolt.
Yep.
Did we have kind of like a core customer that we could start Bolt with?
We did.
Okay. Now, we're in a unique position here because our core customer also happens to be involved, or ownership also happens to be involved in Bolt, right?
Bolt,
in myself.
Yeah.
So great. Like a couple things there. We have that luxury of having this core customer. Awesome.
Yep.
Something to build on. And I'm not going anywhere, right? I'm involved in Bolt too. And we've talked about the mission and why we want this and how much I believe in it. So that's an additional advantage we have on this. But still, if we just hang our hat on, what we're able to do with Spark companies, Spark talent, this, if that's all we do, well, it's predicated on how those businesses do. Right. The growth of Bolt's going to be predicated all on that.
Yep.
And, this isn't going to happen. I won't let it happen. But like, let's say you and I wake up tomorrow and we decide that we don't like each other. Right. Or, we're not going to do this. Like, I don't feel like doing this anymore. Like, whoa, dude, wait a minute. Yeah. Well, that would put Bolt in a precarious position. So, And again, that's not going to happen. But like what happens within these businesses, you have a great relationship with the client. Maybe it's with ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's with a decision maker. Maybe it's, in our world within like the TA or the HR department. Well, what happens when there's a change there?
Right.
Maybe, got a lot of baby boomers retiring. Maybe there's a sale of the business.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a new regime that comes in. Maybe the kids take over.
Yeah.
Maybe it switches to an ESOP and the employees, take over. Like all these, there's just a change, right?
Yeah.
Well, within that change, that setup could be at risk. Maybe there's a change in that business's success. Now, if it goes up, that could be good.
Yeah.
But some businesses are struggling right now, and I think this is a lesson that maybe some are learning. At a time where some businesses aren't doing as well, is like, man, like if I hang my hat on this customer and then this customer loses some contracts, then they're coming back to me wanting to cut services or not work together at all, and all of a sudden I'm out to dry.
Right.
So what do? What are we doing with Bolt? Well, we are also starting to partner and work with our other portfolio companies.
Correct.
Cool. That's
Inside.
one aspect of kind of like doing more of that. And then about 3 months ago, we started taking on, external clients to build around that.
Yep.
We've made some investments in business development.
Yeah.
Like, so this is that's getting started.
Right.
What do I got to do?
Take
I got
steps.
I got a great customer.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Now I'm making money.
Yeah.
All this stuff's rolling.
Yep.
Like I want to just provide a great service to this customer, and I want to do as much with them as possible. There's a lot of good to that, but the danger is like you got to figure out how to do that. And unless, if you want to build a good foundation, I was talking to my daughter about the 3 little pigs this morning.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, here's how this applies to life. Had to sit her down a couple times. She wasn't really listening.
Yeah.
Like it's about building good foundations and things like that. That's the metaphor. And so you might have a good start, with a client, but you're going to have to put some, if there are legs on a stool, if you got 4 legs, that might be one, or in our, we might have a couple, but you got to put some other things in the foundation so that when a storm comes, it's stronger.
Yeah.
And so you got to start looking at bringing in other clients as well.
Yeah.
That's the step one, phase one.
So, I love even the analogy. It makes it super easy for me with Bolt. The key that I heard you say is you've got to get started doing that, though. Everybody starts their business and they have that one, corner
got a
store
lot going on, right?
Yeah.
It would be easy for you to say right now, I have too much going on.
Yes.
I have to service my customers.
Yeah.
Like 2 things can be true. So you're absolutely right when it's like, I need to service my customers. I want to do a great job. Like, I don't want to get distracted. And like, yeah, you got to figure out how to do that, but you got to figure out your own version. We have the luxury of having a business development team, having other companies in the portfolio that can make introductions for Bolt. But let's say you didn't have those things. Well, use your power base, use your content, use paid ads, use these levers, right? We're just able to go a little bit farther on like, hey, like we're starting. Now it hasn't netted a ton of positives, for us yet, because our business development team, this is a new type of outbound sale for them. But we've started.
Yeah.
And we're laying the bricks,
Yep.
one by one.
Yeah, it's those conversations with that team going, hey, this is really what we do the best. Can you help us get in the door here? Can you help us here? That's completely true. And why I say that, and I love that you went to, mentioning our BD team, because there's more phases in that. And I think even looking at the let's just call this the case study of Bolt, since we're going down that right now, is you start to, I'm going to use the word narrow. Maybe narrow isn't the word. Maybe it's refine. Yeah. But the second step in that, after you get started, either give yourself the kick in the pants or you get one from somebody else, a business partner, whoever it is. You got to start kind of narrowing or refining. How would
Yeah.
you describe that?
Well, if it's okay, let's just keep using Bolt
Let's do it.
as the live example here. And
I mean, I'll
we
just
didn't
be
plan for
honest.
this, but
This is why I love having you not only have a podcast, but also being one of my business partners, is because I just love how you think. So 100%. Let's keep going.
We talk about, we want this podcast to not be theory. Like, so here,
Yeah.
we'll give you a real life examples. Like, oh, Aaron, you're a little disconnected from this because, some of our businesses are farther down the line on some of these things, and they are, but like some of them aren't, or we're literally what we're talking about, we're implementing in these businesses.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we've, we started down that journey 3-4 months ago.
Right.
We've, very grateful for the opportunity to work with some other people.
Yep.
Mostly in this Metro Detroit area
Correct.
right now, which I think's been good for us because
Yep.
we've had some conversations out of state.
We have.
We absolutely can do that, and we probably will at some point. Well,
Yep.
not probably. We will at some
We
point.
will. I like that.
But since we have the studios, we can get physically on site easier with less logistical obstacles, even in what I'm seeing, and like with the amount of equipment we got to move and stuff like that. That's been a nice, thing for us.
Yep.
Well, okay. As we've added, 4 different external clients, we're learning,
Yeah.
hey, we've made some mistakes.
We have.
We realized some areas where we need to improve. We've done some really good things.
Yeah.
And that's awesome because guess what? That's how it goes.
Yep. That's how business grows.
In all businesses. Like, so, okay. So we're in that stage, and I don't think you want to move to phase 2 like too quickly.
Yep.
But as we're feeling that out, and you're learning about like, hey, current state, the team, our setup, the equipment, our availability to add people, kind of like where do we at this point fit in best? Where can we add the most value?
Right.
And so we're starting to do that. We still have like our sell sheet, and hey, we can do any of these things.
Yep.
But we're starting to hone in on like, hey, here's some areas where, and I'll share 2 that come to mind for me. It's like, okay, on the podcasting side of things, like if someone like, hey, we have this is a great opportunity for clientele.
Yep.
Another is just being on site and being the physical one to shoot content.
Correct. Yeah.
So there's some others, but those are the 2 things that I'm seeing us try and drill down on a little bit more.
Right.
And it's like, hey, that's the beginning process of us getting a little more targeted on where we want to add. Not that we can't do other areas, but where we feel like we have the most ability to make an impact now.
I love how you just said that, the ability to make an impact. Is that one of the indicators as people are getting more targeted that they should look for in their business development? I can make the most impact here.
Yeah, well, I think let's dive in deeper to this, like getting in the long-term vision of like, oh, this is how we're going to make this big impact and all this stuff. And it's like, great. Here today, now, current state, tools, skill set, team size, like what are we capable of doing now? We know where we want to go, and it's great to have a clear vision and mission and goals and objectives. Like these are all great things. But some of the big picture stuff, it's like, hey, like here today, there's bricks in the foundation that need to be laid to get to that big, massive vision.
Yeah.
So here today, what are we capable of doing, and in which areas that we're capable of do we make the biggest potential impact? How do we best service, customers, clients? Like what is the best way for us to do that? And even in our positioning and in meetings, right? Like, hey, we can do X, Y, and Z for you.
Yep.
Like we could write out all your captions for your social media.
We can do all your branding.
We can do these things.
Yep.
And we will, if that's what you want us to do. However, here are the key areas. Hey, you want to record a podcast. you are, you have a business in Sterling Heights, Michigan, and you live in Rochester.
Right.
Like, boom, we're in Troy. Like,
Yeah.
you can come like on your way in to the office.
Yeah.
We could come in and figure that out. Like,
Yep.
we should start.
Yep.
How long have you been wanting to do that podcast? 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've tried 3 times.
Like, let's start.
Yep.
Like, we literally got the setup. So I'm just giving that might or may or may not be a real life example of someone we're talking to about.
I agree.
Doing a podcast.
Yep.
But like, that would make like, hey, we can, if you've been thinking about that for 4 years and that is literally your situation,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty low hanging fruit to like make an impact on like, hey, like, we got the setup. All you got to do is schedule the hour in between your drive from home into work, and we could boom make that happen.
Yep.
What's the other thing? Oh, we want to capture more video of what we do, our service, our product, what we're manufacturing. Okay, what's your holdbacks to that? And there's 20 different reasons.
Yep.
Well, again, with our client base here in Southeast Michigan, you tell us the day and we can make it happen.
Yeah, our team will be there.
We can do a full day. We can do something consistently. But like, these are 2 areas that we've pinpointed that we're good at.
Yep.
Not that we're not learning or needing to make improvements, or even if you watch on YouTube, you'll see, like, I was looking at the difference yesterday.
Yeah.
I listened to episode 39.
Yep.
And I had it up on my TV in my office.
Yep.
And I'm like, that looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Episode 40 comes out with our new,
another team member.
And I'm like, whoa.
Yep.
And we've added to the team,
Yep.
With Chris, and it's like, whoa, like, okay, now we're shooting that in 4K. Looks like
night and day. We could just say night and day. Let's just say it.
So I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And we have that capability, and that's something we're learning in the process. And the fact that we added a team member just opens the door to get things a little more dialed in.
Yep.
Well, it's like, shoot, okay, like, let me hone in on this stuff with my clients on like, hey, like, because a lot of, you'll find this probably, or you would agree with this, especially in a creative space. This is true for a lot of our different areas. Like, there's so much that you could do, but where do you start?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, hey, we could do all this stuff. You said you want to do this and this.
Yep.
This is where we're learning, but we're the best at. We're the most set up. We have all the capabilities and tools. The logistics work out. Like, I'd recommend we start here because I think we'll get the most bang. I think you'll see the most impact here.
Yep.
And
I
then
got
we
you.
can build, so
that's
kind
good.
of what I mean by whatever that is for a business, or in our case, our different service lines.
Yep.
It's like, where, do we, if we're going to start targeting, certain type of stuff, like, well, where are we best? Where are the 2 or 3 areas that we're best?
Yeah.
Maybe it's the one area for certain instances, but like, okay, I'm going to start to go after that because, I do want to do a great job for our clients, and that is going to take up a lot of my time. So if my time is limited, I want to fill that with where I can provide the most success and the biggest impact.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, as you stretch that even farther, if you're doing more business and creating more revenue and gross profit, well, like, that should lead you down the path of being able to add more tools and technology, or another human being that has unique skill sets.
Right.
And maybe some of those things that we can do, but we're not as like, man, like, this isn't our, like, well, that's the opportunity in adding people, is you can add some of these other unique qualities. And it's like, hey, this person's better, and these, they're really good at these 2 things, these 3 things. Well, that may be a great add if all our clients want to do that. And it's a time or skill set or a little bit of both, and that we don't have a lot of time and we can do this, but it's not our best thing.
Right.
Well, okay, these are clues to like, man, this would be a great add to the team when we get to that point. And then maybe we go back to all those clients and say, hey, now we got the expert.
Yeah.
That really, like, now we do recommend we go to this next step, and here's how we do that.
Yeah, that's great. I hear you, saying this is where you're going to go in. You're going to cut your teeth. You're going to cut into the market. You're going to get deeper into that.
Mhm.
And as we were prepping for this episode, you described to me very specifically what you called the third phase of this,
Mhm.
being the tip of the spear. Unpack that for me.
Yeah, and I kind of ran through it within
Yeah.
that whole last thing, but sorry, I got ahead of
No,
myself.
that's all right. But nail it for me because I know it's there.
Yeah, so with so I get started on business development phase 1.
Yep.
I move to phase 2, which is like we're starting to feel out what we're great at, and we're going to target, these 2 or 3 areas. Well, a tip of the spear business development would be, what is the one area that we want to add more to?
Mm-hmm.
Either because we have the skill set to do it or the time to do it or both. And like, we just want to go at adding this.
Yeah.
Because we know when we add this, we're best in class at doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have our programs dialed in where this will be good for us from a standpoint of efficiency on productivity and profitability, or, just adds to gross profit. It's like, this is the area that we want to grow.
Right.
On the staffing side, to jump over real quick.
Yeah.
Let's go just a little farther on this. Different example.
Yep.
Now. On the staffing side, if I understand what our fill ratios are on openings, like something I'm working on, we have all these different ratios.
Right.
We should do better on we understand our conversion ratio really well. Our conversion ratio is on all candidates submitted.
Got it.
Fill ratio.
Yep.
What's the difference? Fill ratio should be by opening. And it should tell me more about how many openings that we have that we're actually covering.
Got it.
Conversion's on all candidates. So I might submit 4 candidates to one job, and my conversion ratio on that would be 25%.
I got you.
My fill ratio on that opening would be 100%. So a couple things within that.
Yep.
One, that's great, but that's why it's good to have both, because like we want to try and tighten that up on how many candidates need to be seen to get the fill.
Right.
But inversely, with the fill ratio, what I want to know is, okay, how many openings are we filling compared to we're taking and putting into our system and deeming kind of qualified?
Yeah.
And then wherever we're missing, once I see what we're missing, okay, why are we missing this? Are we not qualifying stuff well?
Mm-hmm.
Are we putting support in a wrong area? Do we have more openings? And this is from a tip of the spear standpoint.
Yeah.
Like I might be looking at all these things, but from a where to point, the business development, man, is there an area where we just can't keep up? And if we had more recruiting support in this area, we would knock it out.
Yep.
Or inversely, we're filling all, that's probably more the internal recruiting side of it.
Okay.
Sorry, I misspoke there, or I'm thinking about it
Yep.
from all angles.
Right.
From the business development side, maybe we're filling all this stuff, or we're fulfilling all of it. Man, well, if we're filling all of it, we're probably really good at it.
Right.
How do we do that at more scale?
Right. How do we do that in other?
Let's go get more stuff like that, because we're clearly good at fulfilling it.
Yeah. I'm tracking with you. Okay. So that's, it's like, you're
just focus on hey,
yeah,
we're fulfilling this at 100%.
Yep.
But the problem is we have 20 open, 20 orders like this.
Yep.
And we're 20 for 20 in the last month on it.
Yeah.
Well, I want that to be 200.
Right.
And then we'll hire, accordingly, if that's what we need to do. Or maybe we have, hey, if there's an area where we're inefficient, do we pull some more people over there? And then there's all kinds of things that could happen from that. But I need more projects like this.
Yeah.
More out of this service line.
I think this will be okay to say. And I think I can peel this back some here. just as an example, because maybe for me, the 50,000 foot within this, right, the stages and phases that, and I haven't seen all of them at Spark companies, but, you know, there was a start, you and, you know, let's just call it a couple of team members, you know, are now CRO that was doing some of that BD. And I'm just talking like building that team. There was that portion where it was like, hey, I'm going after this. And I can see that phase very clearly as I've learned more of the history of Spark companies. I then saw, you know, or know about the phase where we start adding people into business development. Then we start adding multiple people into business development. And now, even within BD, we're talking about adding, you know, down the line, maybe sooner than later at the clip that, you know, Spark Companies is growing, but very specific people in BD alongside of that. That's just, it's like, there's even within that department, you're repeating that stage and phase process.
So there you go. That's the 1,000. You're right, and that's great. I'm glad you're catching on.
Yeah,
that's good. That's part of why you're in the role that you're in. But like we're having a discussion around this in our second offsite,
right?
And there's, you know, phases to this, but I would say even for all the growth that we've had and stuff, like I really don't pinpoint us in phase 3 of that very much. We're trying to kind of get there. And one of the things we see big picture long term, because there's 7 companies, is that in order to actually do that, like we'll have to build that team in a certain way, like you're getting to. But, and you might have heard me touch on this in the first offsite. It's like, well, guys, you know, if we wanted to, like, because there's a lot of talks about, we can do this and we can, all great ideas. Well, we could go deploy that exactly right now. But it will probably operationally, from a spend standpoint, break the backs of our smaller entities and would be even more horsepower than I would want to do.
It doesn't match.
It doesn't match. Like, so the process of that big picture mission, so back to the beginning of the conversation, is like that is an awesome, like that is the big picture. Is to drill down like that within the department. However, where can we make the most impact right now, and then how do we and then does that, like, if that's working right, it's going to keep marching us towards that vision.
Keep doing that with your hands for a second, because because here's what I want to point out to everybody who's listening. When Aaron goes like this with his hands in the top of his head, this is what I love about you, is this is a replicatable process. You walked us through
steps to it.
The stages, the phases, the steps of this is how we go about it. This is how I would go about it. You're replicating that in so many different aspects. That makes things successful. And if I could unscrew this mic right now, I would, and I would drop it, because that's the difference between theory and that's the difference between actually going out and do it. Aaron, honestly, I think this has been one of our most profitable episodes for people to listen. I can't wait for our team to cut this and share this. So here's what I'm going to say to all of you who are out there. Share this episode. This one is one that all of us, especially in this Q4 season, need to hear. Rewind, repeat, clip it yourself, remix it, whatever you need to do. Share it with your team. Listen to this one. As you do, make sure you're subscribing. Leave us some comments. We got a ton of people subscribing. We need more of you to leave comments within that. I'll just call it straight out. We're all businessmen and women. We're all leaders. We need some comments in there. So come on, team. Let's do it. And Aaron, tons of, again, wisdom today. I love the energy. I can't wait for people to listen to this one. Thanks so much for sharing.
Thanks, EJ.